Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Nothing But the Truth with me, your host, Reverend Dr. Allen Dillon. And just ask that you be with our country right now, because right now we are heading into a volatile start with Trump on his way to being inaugurated next week. But here's the thing. If you guys haven't already noticed, and as I called and speculated, the stock market has dropped significantly in a lot of areas because a lot of businesses, and even long-standing ones, especially with the alcohol being banned, and of being sold in Canada, the fact that Mexico right now is really, really angry that Trump took it upon himself to try to, and is going to try to get Congress to pass a referendum renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Well, the problem with that is, number one, the UN has recognized and acknowledged that the Gulf of Mexico, that its name goes all the way back to, I believe, 1860s. So that's a problem, because all this is going to do is stir up even more with, even beyond the tariffs and everything else, to where he seems to be wanting to rid any kind of acknowledgement, any kind of ties, any kind of recognition when it comes to Mexico. Worse than that is he's also either going to try first with Congress, and if he's not successful there, he is going to make a presidential executive decision to where, and this is big, okay, because this shows that not a single citizen is safe from his targeting. With this mass deportation, he's actually pushing to, if the legislation fails, he is going to do a presidential executive order that even those who have the United States birthright to be here as citizens, that if their parents, whether they've got their green card, whether they are legally here, anything, that he is going to literally throw that out, which means that he's taking away actual citizenship from anyone who is an immigrant here, who is the first generation or even second generation born here in America. He is going to try to repeal that and make a presidential action in order to make those birth certificates null and void. Here's the thing as well. If he does that, then that means that his own wife, Ivanka, she would have to be deported, because she was, pretty sure, as far as all the information I know and have looked up, she was not born here in the United States. She immigrated into here. So that would literally cancel his own wife's visa. Now that, and when I say this, that it means that it does not matter if they are a natural citizen who was born here or anything else, that any child born here from an immigrant faces mass deportation. And the only way for him to do this is to literally take his presidential power and call for martial law, because none of the federal agencies, from ICE to FBI to, DOD to, all of the local, county, and state police officers do not have the manpower in order to find everybody. This is a very scary situation, because depending on how he words this emergency presidential act, it literally could mean that any single person who is a natural born citizen, that it does not matter the lineage or anything else, that if they married, have children, got their green card legally, all the other stuff, they're still going to be deported. Also, one of the other things is that, the ACLU, trust me, they are going to be crawling up, pardon the French, even though it sounds like English, they're going to be crawling up his ass like a proctologist with a scope and a flashlight, because he's in violation of so many constitutional rights. The Fifth Amendment in and of itself, and violation of due process as well. But it's just the fact that the Constitution states that if you are born here in America, when it does not matter where your parents immigrated from, it automatically makes you a U.S. citizen because you were born here. So, like I said, where does that stop? How many generations, how many families are just going to be stuck in, I'm not even calling them intern camps. These are going to be concentration camps. They really are, because this is no different than when the United States rounded up all those of Asian descent, being Chinese, Taiwan, Japanese, and all that during World War II, when we had these intern camps, which literally were no better than Hitler's concentration camps. But these are the things that he plans on doing. On top of that, he's setting in motion things that, again, they point towards dictatorship or authoritarianship instead of being a president and somebody who represents the people, who's supposed to uphold the law. Now, he's already got the law on him as it is, because the Supreme Court ruled that, which he cannot change the decision of the Supreme Court, even if he pardons himself of the crimes, he still has to pay everything. But the Supreme Court ruled that he cannot pardon himself, and that he cannot just erase the whole thing with Stormy Davis and all that. So These are things that you've got to pay attention to as to what we have to look forward to. Mexico, they're already pissed off about the 25% tariff, and he's actually planning on increasing that when it comes to Mexico, but he's still going to have the 25% for Canada. And from what I understand, he may be doubling the tariff for China to where instead of 10, it's going to be 20%, but no less than 15%. So as much as he claims to be, a non-wartime president, during his first term, he's entering into his second term, literally causing a financial war. Now, that's where a lot of conflicts actually start. Besides when the U.S. was trying to eradicate and minimalize communism and all of that. This right here ranks right up with it because he's not going to be turning on the kilns. He's not going to be, boosting the American industries in order for us to not have to get steel from China and all of those things. Instead, he's keeping it as it is. And you guys have seen that China, they've already hacked, into our systems on multiple occasions, in the past. And some of them have literally been for real infrastructure, like electrical plants. And even if they got rid of the virus, that does not mean they didn't leave what's known as either a worm or Trojan horse that can still be activated, which could cause rolling blackouts. With Canada, they've already said that there will be zero imports or sale of any American alcoholic products, as well as not allowing them to advertise, sponsor, nothing. So this reverts back to what's going on with the stock market. Because of all the things that Trump is planning on day one, and even within his first, everybody goes off of, the first 100 days. It's not even going to take that. I'm saying minimum. Well, let me rephrase that. I should say it's going to be a maximum of 30 days before we start seeing true cause and effect of his decisions, because he sticks to his same narcissistic and sociopathical ways that he shall not be questioned. Nobody, is allowed to undermine him, that he will get what he wants no matter what it takes. Now, if he continues to keep pushing things like this, and to where it's going to continuously affect the American economy, which, by the way, with all the tariffs and stuff, inflation isn't going anywhere. That I can tell you. So here we are stuck in a loop, because he's just, I shouldn't even say loop. It's to more like he's behind the wheel of a bulldozer, and he's just going to literally bulldoze his way through, and he doesn't care, who he squashes, who he, harms, hurts, eradicates, anything. He does not care. Also, with Mexico, they're already seeing one of the highest spikes of those who are trying to make it into America, whether legally or illegally, ever since November. These are some of the highest numbers of immigrants that have come over here seeking the American dream, seeking citizenship, not sinking. Well, they are sinking right now because Trump's literally, doing everything he can to, sink the ship and destroy the ship of their American dream that they're trying to use to get there. And this is absolutely ridiculous. Not only that, it's unconstitutional because, look this up. There, something that the Constitution provides is known as common law rights. But apparently, Trump is currently using the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all of that as toilet paper. And it's absolutely ridiculous. It's the fact that, he's also, backing the American troops going into Syria. He's going to be pushing NATO to aid Ukraine. And so our problem here domestically, as well as obviously, backing up Israel and all the decisions they're making. But this is going to affect Americans on a daily basis to where your kids, even if you're a first generation immigrant and they are a first generation, born here in America and officially have birth certificates and all that, for him to try to wipe that out, that to me shows really his true colors at this point. And I honestly wish that he would contact me so that way I can not only help you guys, but to be on his staff in order to avoid these things, because Americans will rise up. As I've stated before, there are times that the tree of liberty must be pruned, and that those whose main ideas and main aspect is to hurt and harm rather than heal and help us. So if we do not refresh the tree of liberty, and that includes Vance. Vance is not somebody that we want as president because he's even more radical than Trump is. So that's the whole problem in a nutshell, is that right now we have the stock market being affected. We have companies that are being affected. We have families who, obviously they can only run for so long. They can only do so much to try to avoid being deported. And what's worse is that he's even said that those who are natural born citizens from, who are technically second generation immigrants, but they're U.S. citizens, that not only will they be deported with their family members and friends and their community, but that they will be denied entry back into America where they should actually live. And he's going to be ramping up, all the things that, and pushing the judicial system to where they pretty much, break it down to where even for jaywalking and they get a ticket is just cause for them to get deported. So where does this end? Where does any of this end? If this is where his dictatorial and authoritarian, plans are heading. He needs a voice of reason to explain to him the fallout of this. Because if he keeps it up, I can honestly say that I believe that there is going to be another civil war. Although I hate to say those words, I've spoken to you guys previously, and everything else. I'm telling you that if he is allowed to go unchecked on anything, that is exactly where our country is headed. So with your guys' voice and everything else, you need to reach out to your senators, House of Representatives, anybody in Congress who is representing your district, representing your state, everything else. And also, this needs to be passed by state legislation as well in order to protect natural citizens from being removed from America and sent God knows where. I mean, why do we even have it's almost like he wants to eradicate and erase the 14th Amendment to where, equal rights, that you can't discriminate against race, creed, color, sex, sexual orientation, ethnicity, none of that. And yet, he's already started. Plus, I've already told you guys numerous times that, even though he publicly claimed that Project 2025 had nothing to do with him, that it's not something that he's into, that it's not something he's going to, use as his playbook and everything else, here's the problem. He's already taken out key positions held by Democrats that he knows would oppose him. And he is searching far and wide and trying to, suss out the best, but, of his Maganites who are in the Republican Party. Because if you look at Congress, you have, I believe it's 55% who are loyal to him, everything else. Now, let me tell you, that is not just Republicans. There are some Democrat hardliners who also, want to, stay in, toe the line so that way they can stay in his good graces. But there's 45% who continuously have said and continuously are pushing. So that way, he does not get to control Congress. If he can't get his way with Congress, I fear that he's actually going to disband Congress, which again leads back to the dictatorial or authoritarian or pretty much putting himself like a king. But even in England, the king still has parliament, and to where it's not just one person making all the decisions. I've told you guys previously about his obsession and everything else with Putin and idolizes him, all that other stuff. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we now have a Putin wannabe in the White House. And this scares the living shit out of me because of the fact that where will it end? Where will he not abuse, take advantage of, misconstrue, or just literally make everything possible to where it's the way he wants it, the way he sees that it should be? But that's the problem. That's not what our principles as Americans is supposed to stand for. I want you to think about that for next week's show, where I will discuss it more. But pray for all those who are dealing with the wildfires in California and all. Again, please pray for our family member from GCD Network and his family, and all of us who love this. So just asking you guys, please keep all this in mind, listen closely, and I will see you guys next week. So may God, Yeshua, and the Holy Spirit bless you, your family, your loved ones, your friends, protect you from your enemies, protect you from the enemy. Shalom, shalom, and assalamu alaikum. Remember, think about what I said, not just hear it, but listen and think. Catch you next week.